I'm walking down the street.
I do want to say to Doni and many of you in this room that over a very long career in this city, all of you have helped me and my colleagues tell the truth and to try to tell.
I may not look like you and you me, but
Take my hat off.
I'm from South Carolina, so I just...
What does this event mean to you, Miss Peggy Moss?
Oh, my heart,
Happy 20th anniversary.
my heart is about loving up on my sisters. Do you know what it feels like to have your sisters in the room? Done.
And dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. I am beautiful, I am blessed, but not just what you see in the flesh. I'm free from people, free from myself. There's a
The doctor lived next door to the janitor, to the reverend, and the lawyer. We were together. Now we get so high and mighty that you create stress for your society because you don't like poor black folks either. That's a health problem. Get yourself together so I can stop being taking care of geriatric people and get back to pediatrics. I thank you, Doni, for all you've done. Let's keep doing it all the more.
letting His glory shine through. Dare to be you, dare to be me, dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. And I dare you, I dare you, I dare you to be you.
First name's Doni, last name's Glover, in it to win it for the long haul. Baby! It's Monday morning. It's April. It's the first of the month. Okay, it's the third of the month. All right. So, did you see this? Did you see this? And did you see how America responded? Joining us today to talk about this is Natasha Pierre. Good morning, Natasha. How are you?
Good morning, Doni. I'm doing well. It's good to be with you.
LSU versus Iowa.
A great game.
Great game.
Great game.
What else? What else happened?
You know, it was a great game until America, the world, the people, showed the discrepancy between how athletes are treated based on their race. And I mean, I'm a wrestling fan, so I'm familiar with the John Cena, you don't see me, I've done it. I know many people who have done it. And I think this was a case where people rushed to judgment, thinking it was unsportsmanlike conduct with Alexis, I believe her name is, from LSU. But did you notice when Caitlin did it? And that wasn't factored in. And for a lot of black women, I believe it resurfaced many of the instances where their behavior, good or bad, depending on who's judging, was also called into question when it was not called into question for women of other ethnicities. So, you know, it opens up a greater conversation of how people will turn a blind eye to certain behaviors when done by certain people.
You know, I'm thinking about that time that one social media platform blocked my page. I remember posting on that page once the famous quote by Harriet Tubman: "I freed 1,000 slaves. I could have freed 1,000 more if only they knew they were slaves." I posted it, and this particular social media outlet told me that I had shared false information. I then replied to them and said that Harriet Tubman, according to history, at least one version, freed 70 slaves. However, at the Combahee River, In South Carolina, with the assistance of the Union Army, she freed over 700 slaves, enslaved Africans, I should say. And so if you add 700 plus the 70, that's 770, and that's closer to 1,000 than the 70. They would even vilify, I think you said offline, they would even vilify the equivalent of a Navy SEAL, because when this freedom exercise went down in South Carolina with Harriet Tubman, she was working with the military, but it involved being in the water. And for me, that's some Navy SEAL type action. So if they demonize Harriet Tubman, we know darn well they will demonize a sister. And I believe the sister has Baltimore roots. Her mother is a Zeta, famous Zeta here in the city of Baltimore, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, and I want to make a correction, not Alexis, but Angel. This is a double standard. It's a double standard. It's clear, and I really haven't given a lot of thought or energy to it, because even when proven wrong, even when it was shown that Caitlyn did it first, many people are still standing by the fact that Angel was demonstrated unsportsmanlike conduct. Sadly, unfortunately, for Black women, this isn't anything new. See, shocking.
So I know you're on the call, but I have the exact picture up behind me, and I see them both doing the exact same thing. They both have the hand up. So if you're gonna, you know what it takes me to? Let me tell you, it is shifting my whole focus now to mass incarceration in the United States. How is it that are people who comprise 13% of the U.S. population comprise nearly 50% of the incarcerated individuals in America? And they're all Black.
We know the answer.
Racism. Racism.
We do, and it, fortunately for me, the way that I keep my peace in a lot of these situations is to ensure that I don't pretend not to know. The reason for many of the things that we see in our society traces back to one thing. It hasn't gone away. It's still prevalent. It's still here. It still happens, even in a high-stakes NCAA basketball game. And I'm looking at your picture right now. There it is. They both did. So why is it that it was noticed with one but not noticed with the other? Why was it unsportsmanlike with one but not with the other? And we know why that is, because Black women traditionally, we've got the angry Black woman trope that follows us even onto the court.
So many thoughts come to my mind. I think of First Lady Michelle Obama. First Lady Michelle Obama. I remember how they treated her. But then Donald indicted Trump. Donald Trump, the indicted, brought Melania to the White House. A call girl. She was a call girl, wasn't she?
I can't even, it's not shocking to me anymore. And I would like for the world, the masses, to really get to a point where we're not surprised anymore. This is why I speak very often about DEI not being the last step, not being the only step, not being the go-to. If you've incorporated a diversity, equity, and inclusion program into your organization, into your faith community, that's cute. That's the start. However, in my opinion, DEI is performative. DEI checks boxes. It says, let's make sure there's one black, one woman, one LGBTQ, one veteran, maybe one neurodivergent, and we check the boxes. Okay, there's diversity, equity, and inclusion. But is there belonging? Is there belonging where each person feels that they're able to bring their full self to the table, and that full self is embraced? And in my opinion, it's not. This is where the emotional intelligence comes in, because now there's a heart change. Now, when we look at Caitlin's behavior first, we're like, whoa, okay. And in my opinion, I don't think it was unsportsmanlike on either of their parts. If you look at, an NBA game, those guys are trash talking
all day
during every game. So why are we shining a spotlight on women, specifically Angel, when it's happening in NBA games every night?
Well, it's kind of like finger pointing.
Mm-hmm.
Finger pointing. Every time you point a finger, there are three coming back at the person doing the pointing.
Mm-hmm.
What did they teach us growing up? Before you go sweeping around someone else's door, make sure you sweep your own front.
Absolutely.
It's easier for us to talk about. It's easier for me to talk about you than to talk about me.
It is. It is, and that's basically what we're seeing here. The difference between not only men and women's sports, so we can, there's an issue there, but also the issue of the way that, black women are treated versus white women. And, I am a proponent of courageous conversations. So I am excited and grateful that you're having it this morning, because oftentimes we don't lean into it. We run away from it. We run away from the things that are uncomfortable. We run away from the conversations that cause us to hold a mirror up to ourselves, our behavior, our thoughts, our long-held beliefs. And this is a perfect opportunity for us to have that conversation.
As a black man, let me say to you, Natasha, thank you for being a strong black woman. Thank you to all of the black women out there who, in the midst of the trials that you face on a daily basis, you were in the beauty industry, you're in television, you're in the mental health field, you teach people, you teach women how to maintain dignity, how to maintain class. I thank you for holding the banner high, for making sure that black women have a beautiful gold standard to look up to, that you can be beautiful and smart and full of life despite America and its original sin. And thank you to all of the black women who carry it well, who do not fall, who do not embrace, for instance. I don't know that you embrace imagery of black women in less than positions. Like I can't imagine you having a stripper on your page and you holding it up high like, see, this is us. See, this is us. If anything, I see you holding up the banner of Betty Shabazz, of Coretta. I watched the movie over the weekend, Creed, with Felicia Rashad. I always see you maintaining the dignity of black women.
I do. I have. I shall continue to do so. And I want to add, I thank you for saying, strong black woman. But over the last year, I've been telling people that I don't want to be seen that way.
How do you want to be seen?
when I'm called, and given the strong Black woman label, even though it is shared in the moment as a compliment, what I have experienced in my life is that it places me outside of the circle of empathy and kindness, where my strength is then determined by how much abuse I can endure.
Oh no, I don't want you to have to take any. I don't want us to have to take any abuse.
And that's especially in the workplace, in corporate fields. That's what I have experienced. That the expectation is Natasha is so strong. Why is she complaining about a little thing like someone, saying she speaks so well? Why is she complaining about, someone saying you people? Because my strength is innate to me. My strength must benefit me first. My strength is not for the abuse and the ignorance of another. If it's not benefiting me first, it's not going to benefit anyone else before it benefits me. And I think that, there's been a shift, especially with Black women moving towards a softer life, and it's been intentional. They're divesting from that strong Black woman moniker, and I understand it. I really do, because we're tired. We're tired. I mean, just for my life, in addition to being a woman, in addition to being a Black woman, which in some cases really means that I'm doubly Black. I have never, ever been able to just be an employee. Any role that I've been in, I'm speaking, living, being, doing on behalf of the entire Black race, and everything that I do is a reflection of an entire ethnic group, the entire diaspora. That's heavy. It's heavy to go to work and know that you are not only doing your job, but you're also needing to be a record keeper, because you've got to paper trail everything, because you're not sure when there's going to be the double standard of one person doing something, but you're the one that gets caught or seen or blasted. It's a heavy lift every single day. I wouldn't trade it for the world, but that's our reality.
I want to put a thank you to the Black women who have to endure abuse in the workplace. Believe it or not, I was having this conversation 5 o'clock this morning about what our women go through in the workplace, just trying to be regular. There's always, especially in America, there's always something coming from this dark space, and I want our women to know it's not your fault that other people have low self-esteem. And I don't know if it's any one particular race, but we know what we're talking about. It's a lot of low self-esteem out here in the marketplace, and low self-esteem. They can't lift up anybody because they haven't even lifted up themselves. So don't expect them to lift you up, especially when you're prettier. I cracked myself up.
Add that to the equation. But this is why, I challenge people. Like, I don't have surface conversations. I don't do it. We're either going to talk or we're not.
Okay.
And let's go deep. So if you are not ready to go deep, if you're not ready to examine yourself, as I'm going to do for myself, let's not have the conversation. I am all for leaning into courageous conversations, and that it means that we're both holding mirrors up to ourselves. We're both doing ego checks. We're both looking at the areas of low self-esteem and insecurity in our lives. We're both looking at the way that trauma from the past is surfacing in this moment. We're both examining and looking and contributing to the we, instead of just focusing on the me. And many people aren't ready to do that because it's difficult. It takes courage. It takes it's humbling to recognize that, you know, this is, and this isn't a, no, I'm not going to preface. In many instances, in two of my most recent employment positions, I was the most educated, the most qualified, the most skilled, and got the most pushback. Why is that? Why is that? The reality for me as a Black woman in America is that I always have to be the best. It's not that I want to be, it's just that I don't know if there's going to be a second chance for me. And so my attire is, I'll get the angel treatment. People will overlook the Caitlyn and they'll see me. So I'm always dressed for my presentations. I always have my PowerPoints ready. My talking points are there. I'm knowledgeable. I'm educated. I'm credentialed. I'm certified in everything. But yet I see around me mediocrity being applauded. And that's not just specific to one ethnicity. It happens all the time. When are we going to lean into those conversations? But the truth is, we can't lean into them. If it's not going to happen from D.C. I'm in Florida. It's not happening from Tallahassee. We're going to have these grassroots conversations. This is where the emotional intelligence comes in, where we're able to examine ourselves first, look at where there is the hardening of our own hearts, so that we can begin to have these conversations, because this is going to continue.
So
this is nothing new.
Natasha, is it simply jealousy?
I think that's part of it. I think that's part of it.
Now, so how can one group which has had every possible advantage, I'm thinking of the Homestead Act, how can one group who's had every possible advantage, over the weekend I'm researching MBE history and how these white prime companies want to go to court because a minority is getting a contract. It's like, well, God damn, how much of a damn advantage do you want? You don't want, so you want it all, and you don't want anybody else to have anything. Is that really what your mentality is? Now, meanwhile, while these idiots are over here fighting over crumbs, look on the back of 5 items nearest you, and you will see that they are made in China. What I'm saying is, you over here messing with Black people, you need to be looking at Hong Kong. You need to be looking at China, who got 1.4 billion people, who could mash the United States in a head-up fight. But you over here messing with Black people on something petty. So if the Chinese were to come up in here, who you think we gonna help?
This is where,
how dumb can you be?
This is back to the DEI versus EI. DEI cannot be effective without EI, emotional intelligence. I'm going to use Dr. Hank Clemens' definition as being smart about your emotions and the emotions of others. It's being aware of your emotions and how to regulate them. And why I say DEI is failing. All of those initiatives came about because of the murder of George Floyd. Companies quickly ran to incorporate a DEI consultant or representative in their organizations. And in my opinion, it was performative because they really weren't ready to do the work. Here's what emotional intelligence does. We're going to get some people in the room, and one of the tenets of emotional intelligence is empathy. I can empathize with Black people. I can empathize with white people. And this is why. growing up in the Caribbean, my parents prioritized education. I was telling someone this week that I got books for Christmas. Above my bed, my mom wrote out my times table. So on a bunk bed, the first thing I saw in the morning were my multiplication tables. Coming to America, I realized that in order to be seen, in order to be recognized, I always had to have the skills that no one else had. So Black people have been taught, have been trained, have learned that you've always got to be the best, whether you're going to be recognized or not. Now, here's where the empathy comes in on the other side. Imagine you being told that you are the gold standard for all your life, and here comes someone who you've been told is not and has never been, and they have more skills, credentials, and degrees than you. They know things that you don't know. It's jarring. Empathy on my end says, I understand. It's shocking. It's like a woman being told that she's pretty all her life, and then here comes someone that she's been told is ugly, but all of the men are, fawning and dropping over her. It's jarring. I understand it. Now let's move past it. Now let's recognize that she's been lied to. We've both been lied to on both sides of the equation. One being told that we're subhuman, that we have no value, yet right in our face, everything about our physicality and our culture is being appropriated, if we're going to use that word. And on the other side, everything that you've been told is that you're the best, yet in your face daily, you see that can't be true. It's not true, not in every instance. So emotional intelligence says, let's come to the table. Let's put our me and our egos aside. Let's have a conversation for the greater good, for the betterment of the we, for the community. Let's do that. But that takes courage. It also takes a willingness to relinquish some power. And that's what many people aren't ready to do.
Power over what? So you have the power. And that power translates at the end of the day into some form of materialism, right? That's what the power is all about. We have the best land. Like when I think of South Africa, in Africa, but the Black people in South Africa live on the worst part of the land. Is that the equity that the world subscribes to?
That's part of it. I mean, money, land, wealth, influence, those all equate to some social currency, but also, beauty, talent, creativity. That's what Black people are and have always been. And here's the thing, that if you can convince, and I actually saw a video this morning about it. An elephant, if you put the chains around its legs as a baby,
Yep.
You'll learn how far it can go.
Yep.
So as an adult, you don't need the chains. It's not going anywhere.
Arrested development.
So the goal is, let us train and ensure that people, and this is what's happening in Florida right now, let's ensure that Black people aren't aware that their origin story is not slavery. And I heard when you corrected yourself earlier about slaves. It was
Yes.
enslaved Africans.
Yes.
Our identity is not slaves.
Yeah, no.
We were enslaved.
Yes.
And so if we can ensure that Black people do not recognize that their identity
Did not start with slavery. Nor end.
Then we've got them. If they know that their lineage, their history, their origin story is that of kings and queens, of creatives, of those who taught and trained the peoples of the world, then they may just, they may rise up. And I keep, it's really sad. I see your book. It's really sad because this is a conversation until people are ready to really have the courageous conversation and to sit in it and not expect tissues. Not expect. I cannot give empathy. I remember sitting in a meeting in one of my last jobs, and it was a white woman, and she used the term "you people," and I asked her what was meant by that phrasing. I said it as calmly as I'm saying it to you right now, and immediately she went into the hysterics of me calling her a racist.
You are.
Actually,
she is.
I didn't. I just asked what was the meaning of it.
That was guilt. That was guilt talking.
It was guilt. But imagine my hurt.
Yeah.
As a black woman, when the two black men that were in the meeting asked her if she needed a moment. Is she okay? Wanted to get her Kleenex. And I'm sitting here like, oh, not also hear these people.
What happens when black women see black men? I watch a lot of movies, and one scene that that constantly comes to mind in Hollywood is the black man getting shot to save the white woman, or the black man getting killed to save the white woman. I mean, it's the most innocent of roles, but at the end of the day, the black man is still the first one getting shot in the movie. What is it? What do black women think when they see black men defending white women in 2023?
Here's the thing. I think that all men should stand up and defend women, period. Fortunately for me, I have an amazing father. Fortunately for me, I know phenomenal, great black men like Doni Glover. So I know that when I see black men behave that poorly, that they are the exception to the rule. Because the rule in my life is that I am always protected. I am always covered by black men. So initially it hurts, Doni. It hurts. It hurts. It stings. It makes me sad. And then in time, it's pity. I pity you for not recognizing and standing up in a moment where you could have demonstrated and it wasn't even about choosing sides, it's just having the discourse continue without allowing a cop-out. I pity you for not recognizing your role in this moment. I pity you for not standing up.
Tell me about, I saw a picture recently of your father.
My dad.
Tell me about him.
Amazing man. Amazing. Definition of a father and a dad. The example. The prototype. If you're not him or better, keep on walking. My dad is, I am him. You see me, you see him. You see him, you see me. I'm grateful for his genetics.
You look just like him.
I don't have to work out as much because he's tall and thin, but he is the one that checked my homework. He's the one that brought me, personal pan pizza when I didn't want to eat the school lunch. He was at every school event. He was the chaperone. Everyone knows my father because he's always been with me. When I started doing TV at 14, he was there. He was on set. Any retreat, field trips, he was there. He took me to prom, got my dress, got my hair done. He was present, and not just present because there are many fathers and men that are present in the home, but they're absent mentally and emotionally. their hearts and minds are at work or somewhere else. My father not only checked my homework, my father is the one who allowed my sister and I to open up a real business at 12. We had our own store. We hired and fired our own staff. We made deposits. I don't think my dad ever wrote a check when I was with him. He had me writing the checks in stores. So everything was a learning moment and a learning opportunity. And, you know, my father wants nothing from me but to see me happy and to see me succeed. And I wish every woman had a father like mine, because, you know, I'm not saying that they wouldn't pick mess, but it would be harder to do so. My sisters and I agree that we have never heard our father yell at us. Let me tell you what that does for me. In the times as an adult that I've ever heard a man yell and it was directed at me, at first I didn't recognize that it was directed at me, because how is that even possible? My father never yelled at me, so here you are going to yell at me? Not going to happen. I see it, I hear it, I recognize it, I check it. I don't allow that, because the prototype, the standard, the model never did it. So if you deviate from the model, I know that it's not for me. Anything my dad wants, he gets.
I want you to talk with me. This is my final question.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about an area that has become your field, or at least one of your fields of expertise.
Mm-hmm.
As a Black man in America, I remember as a young boy, initially, I thought healthy was having big muscles, being the fastest, being the strongest, or certainly striving to be that. I soon learned by the age of 15 that a person could have all of the muscles in the world, but be mentally as weak as a piece of wet toilet paper.
Yes.
Talk to me about mental health.
The pandemic, COVID-19, evidenced how uncomfortable this nation is with sitting still. Evidenced that as a nation, we've always ran to something. If it wasn't work, well, I can't go to work. Okay, I can't go to Starbucks. I can't go to the bar. I just have to go home. It evidenced how many families just weren't close, because now you're home and you're recognizing that the only reason there's been peace is that you all have always been in different places. The pandemic evidenced just how emotionally weak this nation is, that we aren't as resilient as we think we are. Something as, and this is not talking about people losing jobs and losing income. That's not what it's about. It's about how we couldn't even come together with masks and toilet paper to ensure that our communities were okay. It was happening in pockets. Collectively, we couldn't do it. When people ask me, Natasha, is there one segment of the population that was doing worse than another? I said, no, it was everyone. Male, female, those who were financially stable, those who were not, children, adults, everyone experienced the frustration, the overwhelm, the sadness, the isolation, the anxiety of the unknown. Everyone experienced it. And Doni, after a period of progression, because during that time, 2020, 2021, there was a lot of communication and media attention given to mental health. Well, now I feel that we're in a period of regression, where we're not talking about it as much, where people have gone back to their lives. And the reality is, Doni, that we are the walking wounded. When we have lost over 1 million people in the world, if those 1 million people had at least one person that loved them, that means we have 1 million grieving people just here on the U.S. soil that have gone back to work, And how is that grief manifesting? Because I know that everyone isn't seeing a grief counselor.
Right here on the screen, right here on the TV screen last night. You see it.
So is the grief manifesting with road rage?
Yes.
With yelling?
Yes.
On court?
Privilege.
With pulling a gun?
Yes.
How is the grief manifesting? We're not talking about it. And grief isn't a mental illness, but it's a mental health condition that if left unprocessed, if we're not talking about it, it can manifest into something like depression. We all, if you listen, the stat is 1 in 5. I say it's probably 1 in 3.5 Americans are living with a mental illness. That means it's your accountant, your mechanic, the person that makes your coffee at McDonald's, Dunkin' Donuts. But if you have a mind, 5 out of 5 people have a mind, and if you have a mind, you should be concerned about your mental health. That means your emotional and psychological well-being. I stop asking people, how are you? I ask them, how's your heart? How's your heart?
What's the difference?
When people say, when you hear how are you, it's the default to say, I'm fine, I'm good, blessed and highly favored, awesome. That's just what you're saying because it's rote. You're so accustomed to saying it. When I say, how's your heart, it stops you in your tracks once because you haven't heard that question phrased that way before. And now you're compelled to pause, to slow down and think. How's your heart?
Why slow down and think? Because we're running all the time?
Absolutely. Because many people have ascribed to this hustle culture, that they have equated being busy with productivity, and they are not the same. Just because you filled your calendar from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., are you being productive or are you just busy? Is what you're doing to a specific end? Is it aligned with your values? Is it aligned with your purpose? Is it aligned with your passion? Or are you just doing it because you're afraid of sitting still long enough to deal with the untreated, unhealed, unprocessed parts of you? You're afraid of looking in a mirror, so you just keep going, keep doing, keep moving. And that's what we're doing. We are afraid of being still because if we're still long enough, we got to deal with what happened to us at 3. We got to deal with what happened to us when we were in the military. We got to deal with the look that we got when we were in the 7-Eleven. We got to deal with, being called classless on a national stage.
So this young lady was she was traumatized.
It could be a trauma. And I read that she is saying she apologizes for nothing. And initially, that's the boldest statement. That's the never let them see you sweat. And she could be fine. But there's some people who will give that bold statement, whatever. You didn't, I don't care. But it stings.
Yeah.
Why didn't you see her first? Why did you attack me first? It still hurts.
3 o'clock in the morning, we're sitting by ourselves. Someone said to me that COVID was God's way of sending the world to its room, where we have to deal with ourselves. You talked about the things that happen with us in childhood or growing up. Possibly everyone has experienced some type of trauma. What is the best advice you could give someone today?
Gift, G-I-F-T. Gift yourself 6 months of once a week therapy and go all in. All in. If you didn't go all in, the deal's off. But if you go all in at the end of 6 months, if you say, yep, I'm good, fine, that's done. But I assure you that at the end of those 6 months, if you're going all in, you're going to want to continue because we don't know what we don't know. Some of us are just walking around saying, I'm just the way, this is me because I'm a middle child. I'm a Pisces. I'm an Aries. I'm just hot-headed because I'm a fire sign. No, sweetie, some of that is your response to trauma. Some of that ultra independence is a trauma response. That's you having been neglected, feeling like you've never been taken care of, and saying to yourself, I'm never going to give another person an opportunity to let me down again. So I'm going to make sure that I'm always good. I always got me. Therapy, talking to someone. Yes, we can journal. Yes, we can process things in our own. But this is why psychiatry, psychology, mental health, it's a field where people are trained to help walk you through things that are difficult. You need someone to help walk you through. Can your best friend do it? To a point. And then they don't have the skills. There are some people, if you've experienced a trauma, and trauma is relative to the individual, whether it was a car accident or a pit bull chased you, you need to work with a trauma-informed therapist, a trauma-informed counselor. If you have experienced grief, you lost someone that was close to you, that was dear to you, you need a therapist that specializes in grief. Whatever, my veterans, I connect them with veteran counselors first. Why? Because if their trauma, their PTSD is related to what they had to do, see, or experience while at war, the only other people who can understand that and hold space for them is someone who has also been through it.
Have you
Representation matters.
Have you ever befriended a veteran?
Oh my gosh, that's like half of who I work with. And it came about because I did, I speak openly of being diagnosed with bipolar disorder well over 25 years ago. So this is my experience, this is my journey. In 2015, I did an intensive outpatient treatment program. One of my group therapy sessions I did with the active duty military, the Marines, Navy sailors, and Army soldiers.
Hold up. A model hanging out with military cats, how did that work?
I thought they would kick me out, but they let me stay. And we spoke openly about everything that we experienced, that they experienced, that they had to do. Doni, here's the thing. I am graced for my life. I can't watch a war movie, but I can sit with a veteran and have her tell me what she had to do without flinching, without moving, because I'm graced for this. I'm graced to hold space for veterans as they heal. I'm graced to connect them with resources.
My understanding is that these veterans came to depend on you. I remember one story you told me in particular. I think the soldier's no longer with us, but he was very grateful to have met you.
Very grateful. Yes, that's Staff Sergeant Elijah Washington. Yes, he PTSD. He worked with a lot of the soldiers at Bay Pines in St. Pete, Florida, and actually went into cardiac arrest while I was speaking with him on the phone. But he was one of the veterans that I worked with and worked a lot with in the community. And
I will never forget that story.
Yeah, there was one time in particular that we went at night, dark area, and I'm like, what am I doing? But he would just call out Semper Fi, and Marines would come out, and these are Marines who live off grid. They're, homeless, and that's what they prefer. But he would let them come back to his home, get showered, get cleaned up, and then they go back out. And so you got to be graced for this life in the same way, Doni, that you are graced to empower, encourage, inspire, and educate Black people is the same way that I am graced to do the work of mental health. To ensure that people know that a diagnosis is not a death sentence.
Did you see that? Did you see it coming? I mean, you were, the visuals, the model, the television, and kudos. Oh man, we got to plug how can people get in touch with you? Y'all have to see the work that Natasha is doing now, how to get on television. Tell them, Natasha.
Yes.
I'm so proud of you, kid. I'm so
It's
proud of you.
You know what, Donnie? It's not that I saw this role coming, but here's the thing. I've always been a communicator. So from age 9, my stuffed animals were lined up on the bed, and I was speaking to them.
Mhm.
So I've always been in communication, like you, broadcast journalism major, English major. So I've always been communicating when I was modeling, when I was acting. So this is a natural trajectory for me. My mental health work involves education, involves me being on TV and quite a bit. And a lot of that came about because of my communications training, not just from my degree, but from the work that I was doing at 9. So people can get in touch with me on my website, natashapierre.com. It's just my name. On social media, I'm at Natasha Pierre Official. My DMs are always open for anything mental health or substance use. I've got to give that disclaimer.
But man, I'm gonna tell you, if you go at her with that foolishness, you're gonna catch the wrath of God. And she done already told you she know them Semper Fi cats, and you know they go hard in the paint. So I'm just letting you know, don't crack slick, because somebody might be knocking on your door. It ain't gonna be this television thing. It's gonna be for real, for real. Semper Fi, we got much respect to our soldiers.
Absolutely. Our Marines are, so everyone in the military, that's my
I remember that story, man. I remember you telling me that story and how important it was to you to help this person, this soldier. And then he went on and you were able to help him make progress. I mean, it's like the story I remember is like he told you his life story. You thought he was helping you. That's what I remember. And you were also helping him, though. You didn't know that part.
Absolutely. One of the things that he told me, because we were doing a daily 5K as I prepared for my 5K, and one of the things he told me is, Natasha, the places that caused you the most pain birthed your today, birthed your right now, birthed your today. And it's
say that again. Say that again.
The exact words were, the place where you struggled the most is what cultivated your growth. And you stumbled from pain right into purpose. So by him telling me about his basic training and how he got through, it made me even
from pain to
purpose.
I've heard from passion to purpose. Now you've just brought a whole other dilemma from the other side, from pain to purpose.
Yeah.
Woo!
Because mental health for me, before I received the diagnosis, that was painful. It was embarrassing. How does a person voted most likely to succeed end up with acting this weird? It caused me a lot of pain. And he said, from your intense pain, it brought you to your today.
I commend you.
You're actually talking about it.
I commend you for the way you embrace it, because you give me, and I imagine so many others, the power to take back our lives, whatever it was, drugs, sex, gambling, alcohol, running to the clubs, running the streets, all kinds of things.
Clubs, everything. People need to recognize everyone has a drug of choice. It may not be a drug, but it may be shopping, gambling, porn, strip clubs. And when I say a drug of choice, it's the thing that you run to. It's your default panacea, your the thing that calms you down.
I'm trying to make mine prayer. I work to make it prayer.
Work to make it prayer. Prayer, meditation, whatever it is for you, ensure that whatever it is, it's something that's healthy and contributing to your life, and not a barrier to your progression.
It used to be that Patron. Let me just tell you, that was easy. That was 5 minutes away. Woo!
Yeah.
But when the Patron gone, you still got the problem, and you're in the worst.
Still got the problem.
Yeah.
The happy hour is only from 5 to 9. After 9, when you're no longer happy, you still have to deal with that person. You still have to deal with them.
NatashaPierre.com.
24/7.
You thought your job was to be a supermodel or actress, teach people how to get on television, but you out here freeing people. You know, Marianne Williamson, as you let your own light shine.
Mm-hmm.
You just wrote it this morning or recently, past couple of days.
Yes.
The courage to face our fears. Lean in, you said. How'd you say it?
Marianne Williamson said, as we let our own light shine, we give others the courage to do the same. So as we live authentically, as we be fully who we are, we're encouraging others to be fully who they are. And that's what it is. You know, fear isn't going away until courage steps in. And the courage isn't going to come until you take that first step. Sometimes we're not minding our business. We're focusing on the entire staircase when all you have to do is take the first step. Move that right foot, left foot, whichever one you want to move first. Just move that, and you'll see that your next step, the instructions, the direction, the encouragement for the next step will be illuminated. It'll come to fruition, but we get hung up on that first step. Just take the first step. Just take the first step.
My daddy said it like this.
First step is therapy.
My daddy said, if you take a step towards God, he will take a step towards you. And his steps are bigger than yours.
Bigger. I say that our job is obedience. God's job is the outcome. We're minding God's business when we focus on the outcome.
Slow down. Hold up. Say that again.
Our job is obedience. God's job is the outcome. We are minding God's business when we focus on the outcome. That's not your business. Your business is to be obedient. If your business, Donnie, is to be on air every weekday, that's obedience. As soon as you start focusing on, well, you know what about the numbers, and, you know, I need people to do this, and I want to make sure we get this far. You're minding God's business. God's business is to ensure that this message gets to who needs to receive it. That's the outcome.
Thank you.
Don't mind God's business.
Thank you for that reminder. I need reminders too. Thank you for that reminder. Stay obedient. You know, you're down in Florida. I shared this, I Am Black Wall Street. I learned so much history about Florida. After Trayvon Martin, I never wanted to go to Florida again, but then I did the research on the people who first went to Tulsa, Oklahoma, to Oklahoma in general, and they came out of Florida. So much Black history in Florida. Juan Garrido, free Black man, Spanish conquistador, Black Caesar, Miami, Biscayne Bay, Black Caesar, a Black pirate, Florida. Look him up. Black Caesar had $6 million worth of silver before they hung him up in Virginia. And then the whole Andrew Jackson, who is a replica of modern day Trump, or Trump is a replica of Andrew Jackson on the $20 bill. He hated Black people and hated Indians. And big ups to the Seminoles, including Chief John Horse, who led the first Blacks to Oklahoma. Your final thought, and thank you again for joining us. You saved this show, but you know what? It seems so ordained.
We go back like car seats, Donnie.
Wow.
Final thoughts are do the work. Lean in to courageous conversations. Trust that you have within you everything you need to navigate it. And don't be so quick to rush to judgment. Get all the facts. before you judge Angel, make sure you watch the full game and you're not just jumping on a bandwagon. Do your research.
Thank you for being my homie for a long time, all the way down to Prince George or somewhere. No, D.C. It was Black Wall Street in D.C., I think.
Yes, yes.
You old gangster, sir. You're a gangster. I know you're a gangster.
For life, for life.
Till next time.
Till next time. We'll talk soon.
Good deal. Good morning, world.